Everybody, welcome back to ND Ice. I'm your host, David Trnka, alongside my co-host, once again, Lincoln Retzlaff, on the podcast that we talk college, junior, and high school hockey in the state of North Dakota. We are very excited to introduce this new series on ND Ice that we like to call Catching Up with Brad and the Boys, featuring obviously Lincoln and I and our very special recurring guest. He's been a UND Hockey's beat writer on the Grand Forks Herald for almost 20 years, and now Professor Brad Schlossman. Welcome, Brad.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Brad, we know you're a pretty busy guy, so we're really excited to have you on and be a part of this with us. So kind of just jump right into it. UND had a scrimmage today. It's Tuesday, October 3rd. We just want to get your UND had a scrimmage. They did multiple different things: 6-on-6, 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3. What were your initial thoughts on the scrimmage? Who played well, who stood out, who didn't? What are your thoughts here?
Well, I thought, Griffin Ness scoring the only 5-on-5 goal. I thought he overall did himself some favors tonight.
Yep.
It's going to be a really competitive lineup to try to get in, and he did a nice job, I thought. So that was notable. Some of it was what we've come to expect. Reese Gaber scoring 2 goals. Obviously, I thought he had a good game and a good night, but that really isn't shocking that Reese Gaber played really well. And I think number 3 for fans, I watch a lot of like USHL and junior hockey on webcasts, and I've seen practices and stuff too. So Jaden Perron being really elite is just what I see every single day. I saw it in his 2 years in the USHL. I've seen it at practice. This is what we've seen. But for fans, they haven't got to see that. A lot of UND fans, that was their first time seeing Jaden Perron. Right. And I think, he was throwing out a T-shirt as one of the 3 stars of the game at the end of the game, and he better get used to that drill, because I have a feeling he's going to be doing that quite a few times this year. Lastly, I thought the defensemen, I thought they had a really good night. They're playing some really good forwards. I think UND has a high-end forward group, and I thought a lot of them were efficient. They weren't making bad, egregious plays. I liked the competitiveness. Jake Livanovich, I thought, stood out. There were a couple times he got into one-on-one situations with Jackson Blake, and that's usually not great for the defense. Any defenseman to get in one-on-one with Blake, and he played him really well. So, but I thought all of them did fine. They did their job. So, those were kind of the big things that jumped out at me.
Yeah, I thought I was really surprised, like you said, with the defensemen. All of them played a pretty good game. I was really surprised with there was one opportunity where Jaden Perron broke into the blue line and Zamolik was the one defender back with him, and he actually stayed with him the whole way. That's pretty good for a guy who's as big as Zamolik is, especially against a guy like Jaden Perron who's as fast as Jaden Perron is.
And a guy who hasn't played a game in a year and a half.
Right, exactly. Well, some of the things that stood out to me, I honestly, Lincoln was saying it earlier when we were talking about it after, but they played kind of like how you would assume a team that is brand new would play with each other. It wasn't super shocking. The defensemen played well, but some of the forwards that stood out to me, Jaden Perron obviously was a stud. He was moving the puck really confidently. He looked comfortable out there. Not that you shouldn't. Exactly. Not that you shouldn't when you're playing a scrimmage against your own teammates, but he looked pretty comfortable in the position he was in. He was moving the puck well. He was good on his edges, and his hands were incredible. He was really quick with moving his hands. And then also I thought Johannes played pretty good too. He laid the body and made some good plays, had some good shots, opportunities. What did you think, Lynx?
Yeah, I thought kind of the same thing. We were talking about before the game how big our team looks. Like we saw, was it Komzak and Smolik and Johannes? Like they look massive out there, and they're gonna play a tough game. And I don't know, I'm really excited to see what they do against a non-scrimmage, like a game, more of a game, a true game atmosphere. Because I don't know, I just really liked how they looked out there, especially a lot of the transfers, and I thought Pike looked good and Pearson
Mhm.
too. So
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
was
thought
surprised.
like had
Sorry,
a
go
nice
ahead.
game too. Yeah. Um, he has a little bit more offense than I had expected. You could see he can skate and get up in the play. Um, he had a nice night.
Cheese got put in at the beginning. I thought he looked pretty decent right at the beginning as well. I initially thought me and Lincoln kind of both thought looking at the rosters going into it before that we both thought green team was kind of going to dog on white team, and it didn't go that way at the beginning at all. White kind of had a lot of the possession, and they had most of the shots throughout the entire scrimmage. So it was interesting to see that. What would you say, Brad, going to the next thing here? UND right now, I mean, it's hard to tell right now, but what would you say UND's greatest weaknesses and strengths are right now for this team?
I mean, for strengths, it's going to be the forwards. I mean, I've seen so much of. They really returned a lot of guys from last year. You know, Reese Gaber's back. Jackson Blake is back. Owen McLaughlin, Schmaltz, James. I mean, you can go down the line. Jammernick, Kuntz. They have a lot of pieces back up front, and then they're all a year older. And then you add in a guy like Jaden Perron, who, I think he's unbelievable. For fans that haven't seen him yet, I mean, he is different. He sees it differently than, he sees the game like Nick Schmaltz, like Evan Trupp, Jackson Blake. It's less than 5 guys I've covered in 20 years at UND that see the game like Jaden Perron. He knows the next play. I think he's going to be a dominant guy from day one. He's just different. And then they add in Cameron Berg, and he's
Mm-hmm.
a guy who can shoot the puck. And he put up over what did he have 20 points his freshman year? If not, it was right about that.
Yeah,
He
I
had
think he did.
24 last year. And usually the big jumps come from sophomore to junior year. And when he's already putting up 24 points as a sophomore, now he's coming into a junior year and he appears to be starting between Jaden Perron and Reese Gaber. I mean, that's Perron and Berger, two really good pieces to add to a forward group that was already good. So, long story short, forwards, that's the strength.
Right.
The weakness, I mean, defense is the question mark. I would say, do I know it's a weakness? I need to see these guys play. I've never seen them play.
Right.
If I had seen them play and seen them struggling, I'd be more apt to label it a weakness. But that's hard to do when maybe they'll be really good. I have no idea what they're going to be yet. So they had a good night tonight. They'll be tested again against Manitoba, and then they'll get into the real thing the week after, and we'll have to see them play several times before we can really grade them out. But that's, I think, definitely the big question mark heading into the year.
For sure. Just taking it back just one step on the scrimmage there. We didn't see Michael Emerson at all, and we initially in Lincoln weren't sure why. I'm sure you know why. And then also Jackson Kuntz we saw leave the game. You want to go in a little bit detail about what happened with those two situations?
Yeah, Emerson was sick, so he hasn't been at the rink this week. Didn't practice yesterday. Didn't come to the rink today. So that's just an illness. That does that mean he won't play on Saturday? I mean, I'm thinking probably means he's out Saturday. That you're coming back from an illness. You probably want to build back some strength, and you already got a lot of guys you want to get in. So I think that probably hurts his chances of playing Saturday in the exhibition. Jackson Kuntz blocked a shot early on and didn't come back. There's a press conference tomorrow with Brad Berry, and we'll see if there's any update on him at that time.
Would you say it's a little hard to tell obviously right now, but obviously UND fans have their optimism. The experts have their optimism on this team. There's a lot of words surrounding how good this team could be. What do you think right now, in your opinion? Maybe throw a hot take out there. What do you think, in your opinion, is the ceiling for UND right now, this team?
Well, I think a lot of teams are entering the season thinking they have a shot to win the national title.
Mhm.
And the reason I believe that is because when I went through my list of teams, I saw a lot of good teams in college hockey, but I don't know if I saw one where I was like, they are just so complete and overwhelming. Every one of them I had question marks for, and some of them are going to emerge and answer those question marks. But at this point, like last year, I really thought Quinnipiac and Minnesota entered the season with very few question marks,
Oh
and they
yeah.
ended up being the two best
Right.
teams all year long. This year, I just am, I'm coming up with my rankings and I'm struggling. Like I'm at number one, and I go down some of the attributes of these 1 and 2 teams, and I'm like, this isn't what it was the last few years. So I think there have to be, 20 teams that are entering this season where their coaching staff probably feels if things break right, they can do really big
Right.
things. And I don't think that was the case the last couple of years. So I think a lot of teams should be setting their sights high, because I just don't know if there's teams right now that feel super overwhelming.
Right. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, when you do look at a lot of the teams, I don't see a lot that stand out as the decisive number one right now. There's up in
Mhm.
the air with, BC is gonna have a great freshman class. Then they have some good returners. BU has, Lane Hudson back, and they're gonna be good. They got some
Celebrini.
good goalie transfers after losing Drew Comesso. Minnesota will be good, obviously. Will be good. Quinnipiac will look to bounce back. St. Cloud might have a good season too. A lot of great picks out there. It's hard to make a decisive number one. So, what would you say the absolute bottom of the floor is for UND, the minimum they could see them doing?
Well,
I
I
mean, they
mean, we're kind of in the same boat there. Like
yeah,
when I see, like, let's just take a look at the NCHC. Like
Mhm.
I see Miami finishing eighth. I think
Right.
that for me,
yeah. I
they have
don't think
a
that's
lot of like solid pieces, but they don't have the difference makers. They don't,
right.
maybe Barbolini. Um, but when it's a tie game or they're down one, who's going to go get those goals for him? Maybe PJ Fletcher. Like I think Fletcher has a lot in him, but they've got to get to the next level. They just don't have the go-to
Right.
type guys. And like I said, maybe Barbolini or Fletcher can be that. I just don't know if they have enough difference makers to get out of the bottom. I do think Denver probably has the fewest question marks in the league. On D, they have Barons and Shai Buyam coming back as really two of the best D in the league. After that, they have a lot of young D, and they have a goalie who we don't really know a ton about yet. Whether it's Matt Davis, who it probably will be to
Right.
start the year, or whether Freddie Halyuk gets in there. But then I look at teams like Omaha, St. Cloud, Western Michigan are in CC. Those four all have really good D. And I have questions with some of them on how they're going to score or how much they're going to score. And then you have teams like UND and Duluth, and you look at them and say they have a lot of offense, but they have questions on D.
Mhm.
Um, so some of those teams, I feel 1 through 7 or 2 through 7 are fairly close. Um, you could rise up or someone could fall down really quickly, because I have a feeling that the point totals between those teams is going to be pretty close. I don't see this UND team finishing seventh. I mean, I think if things go really wrong, sixth would be the bottom for me. I don't think they'll finish sixth. I think I put them second. But second through sixth, there's really not a ton of difference. So
Right. It's gonna be a tough league again this year, and it's one of those things you got to take into account because last year I can tell you I don't think there was a lot of people thinking UND was going to finish. What was it, fifth, or were they tied for sixth or fifth with Duluth?
They're tied for 5th. Yeah.
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 And they end up
Yeah.
getting the 6th seed and going to Omaha. So it's a tough thing to think about. And you gotta hope that the team gels well together. I think they will, but I guess we'll see what happens, especially after a season like last season. That being said, what would you say is UND's most challenging matchup on the schedule this year? Is there one
I
that
think
stands out to you?
it's BU to me. I think BU is going to be really, really good. They
Mhm.
have 2 Hobie Baker candidates on their team in Lane Hudson and and Macklin Celebrini, the
Mhm.
freshman coming in. So, and that one's out there too. So I think that makes it even more challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
UND does have to play Denver on the road, which is always a really tough series
Yeah.
in Denver. So that would be up there too. I know Minnesota is going to be a good team, and that's going to be a difficult series. But I tend to put it on road series are always
Right.
tougher. And going to BU and going to Denver are the ones that stand out. If I have to pick one, I'd say BU.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. That's going to be, I mean, UND hasn't been out there since I think 2015, I want to say.
Yeah,
And I
that
don't,
was the Frozen Four that year.
yeah,
It might have been like 13 when they played them at Aganis when they had Matt O'Connor. That was the game where UND. I'd have to look up the shots on goal, but
Mhm.
UND had an insane number of shots, and Matt O'Connor played
Yeah.
one of the best games I've seen a college goalie play.
Yeah. What do you think, Lincoln?
Yeah, I would agree with Brad. I think the BU series, it's just like the road games are so tough. Like me, Dave, you know this, but me and some buddies last year, we went out to Denver and we watched them play and we saw UND get swept. And I don't know what it is, but the road games are just tough. Um,
Yeah,
going to play in St. Cloud, that's never easy. But I think if we could steal a game out in Boston, I think that'd be so huge considering they're
exactly.
gonna be probably a top 5 team. So I mean that would be, I don't know. I think stealing a game in Boston would be crucial, and that'd
Right.
just be huge.
It's a tough environment out there, and it's been such a long time. I mean, I can't imagine there'll be a ton of UND fans. I mean, we'll be there. UND fans always travel well, but again, like you said, Brad, those road series are so tough. And I think personally, I mean, I wouldn't say the Denver away series is definitively like not more going to be harder than Minnesota. Minnesota's going to be a bloodbath, but that's going to be here, so that'll make it
Mhm.
easier on our guys, at least to motivate them to win at home at the minimum. So, and plus you got the atmosphere and the fans behind you. That'll be good. We'll go into a little funny segment we like to call Brad's radar. Insert the submarine beep 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 sound. So basically, Brad, what's your player to watch? We don't know when the next episode of this will be, and it'll be at least recurring every month. So, who's your player to watch? We'll just go for this weekend and maybe the opening weekend here.
Well, because I
So,
haven't talked about him enough yet, I'm going to go with Jaden Perron. Um, yeah, I think on the national scene, he's really underrated right now. He was drafted in the third
Yeah.
round. Like I think he's first round talent. Um, I said it before the draft. Uh, you know, I've watched enough of the Chicago Steel the last couple of years that I don't need to see where Jaden Perron goes in the draft before deciding what type of player he is. I've already seen him. He's going to be really, really good. Um, and now I've seen him in practice at the college level, and he's just, you know, he makes plays every practice, 3 times a practice that I'm just like, there's no other guy that makes that play. Maybe Jackson Blake, but he's just incredibly smart and knows where the next play is. And he plays at a faster pace than I thought he did. And his shot is a little better than I thought it was. You could see tonight a couple of his
Yeah.
releases where I was like, whew, that was he had one on the power play where a guy was there, and I didn't know if he would be able to get it off before the D-man had a stick on it, and he did, and it missed the net and hit the back wall, but it made a pretty good thud when it hit the back wall. And that's
Right.
I think he's going to be one of the best players in the conference this season. And for people who don't know who Jaden Perron is, they're going to find out pretty quick.
For a guy who is as
Yeah.
small as he is, who probably dropped, I mean, that's one of the biggest ways people drop in the draft is just because of people's size. They're worried about how they're going to play in juniors and how it'll affect them. How do you think, I mean, how does he, he's a smaller guy. How does he not let that affect him, or how does he work around that and use it, possibly even use it to his advantage?
Yeah, I mean, he's just so smart in the way he plays, and he's so skilled. There are not many guys who can be under a lot of pressure and duress from an opponent. You can see when it's coming, when the guy's about to cough up a puck, right? Like you see a guy have a guy in a tough position and he doesn't have anywhere to go, and he always will throw the puck to like a teammate or into space where a teammate's going to skate, or he'll make a little move and lose the defender. There aren't many guys that have that ability. And, the guys that, I've covered, like Jackson Blake does have that ability as well. Nick Schmaltz could do that really well. TJ Oshie could do that to some guys. But it's just a really rare ability to just be so calm under duress and always be able to work your way through it. He just doesn't lose the puck too often, and he's a rare player.
What kind of caught my eye about him tonight? I don't remember when it was, but there was one time, I think we might have said something about it, David, but it was down in the D zone. And I don't know who, one of the defensemen I think was coming to hit him, and he just made like a really nice move to avoid the hit. And it just looked so smooth, and just the way he was connecting and passing to Gaber, especially on his goals. Like he plays, so he looks like a playmaker. He plays clean. And once they get that chemistry going, like I don't know how you can stop him from making that nice pass over to Gaber or Cameron Berger, whoever. Like it's going to be really fun to watch him.
The one thing you saw tonight that I've seen time and time again, the 2-on-1 goal where he fed Gaber, like the percentage of his passes that end up in a guy's wheelhouse and not in their skates or too far in front or too far in back is really high. And that allows a guy like Gaber just to shoot the puck. If you have to handle it for a split second, the goalie a lot of times can get over and make the save. And he's so good at putting it right in the wheelhouse. The other thing is he had a defender on him, and sometimes you see that pass get broken up. The number of times he gets it through defenders, the percentage he gets it through them is unbelievably high. And so like when you saw him coming down on that 2-on-1 right away, I was thinking, well, I know what's about to happen here. I've seen it a lot of times, and sure enough, he made that pass. It was a perfect pass. So I just think he is small, but some guys just, it doesn't matter. And he's one of those guys, to me, it doesn't matter. And I think the Carolina Hurricanes, are going to be quite happy with getting someone like that late in the third round.
Yeah, the way he would move the puck, or he would just give it a little dabble and kind of sauce it up and leave it for a defenseman, or the way he just works on his edges, it just seems like he never really runs out of space, and he can just move it really well. What would you say? This is a little, again, something a little bit hard. You might need to take a minute to think. What would be your preseason Hobie Baker hat trick right now? Your top 3 picks for the Hobie, just right now in this season, preseason.
I think last year we saw a lot of the high-end top NHL prospects do really well. I really think Macklin Celebrini is going to be one of those guys at BU. I think there's a good chance, I would assume he would be the youngest winner of the Hobie ever. He's 17 right now. I would put him on that list. BC is going to be really interesting. Cutter Gauche is really, really good. And he now is going to have Will Smith there. And I think Will Smith is really, really, really high end. And Smith sees the ice really well, and Cutter's going to be the shooter. He shoots it really well. So I think Cutter's going to score an unbelievable number of goals this year, playing with Will Smith. And a lot of times the goal guy gets the more votes than the assist guy. So I think Cutter will make the top three. And the third one,
Or goalie in there, maybe.
you know, I honestly think that, you know, a Blake and a
Blake
Perron
Bertilio.
type guys have
Yep.
a chance to be that high as well. I think they're going to put up really big numbers. I think they're two of the best players in the NCHC. You know, Jimmy Snuggerud at Minnesota scores a lot of goals, but he also he did lose
two of his line mates.
Yes, who are very, very good and helped. You know, Cooley was an exceptional passer. Snuggerud's still going to score a ton, but you know, that line isn't going to be quite the same. You know, a lot of people are picking like Brindley at Michigan, and I think he's really good, but I really think Blake and Perron are on that same type of level. You know, the CCHA, you know, PL, you know, I don't know if there's a goalie that will be quite, you know, Devin Levi going into last year. I thought, you know, Levi I could see being top three.
Right.
Someone will come up with some amazing numbers. If I had to throw out a guy who maybe has unreal numbers this year, it might be Bischel at Notre Dame. He had like a 931 last year and has a track record at this point that's hard to ignore. I think he's a goalie that could get up there, but if you made me pick three, maybe I'll say Celebrini, Cutter Gauche, and maybe I'll throw Jackson Blake in there.
Nice.
That's pretty close to what I was gonna say. I was gonna do probably I'll just go different. I'll do Lane Hudson.
Yeah, that's a tough. Yeah,
I'll do Lane Hudson.
Throw a D in there.
Yeah. I want to throw a UND guy in there just to be cool about it. I'd say I'd agree with you. I think Blake definitely has the best chance of being in the hat trick final besides Gaber. I just don't know.
Yeah, Gaber, if he gets the goals,
yeah, if he gets it going.
Yeah, I thought he played really fast tonight, like a different pace tonight. So, you know, it'll be interesting. The other interesting part is if you look at the names we're naming, we're all naming two guys on the same team. You know, that can hurt some of those guys at times. But no, Hudson's a really good one. I probably should have had him on my list. But yeah.
I do Hudson. I wanted to say Blake Pietila from Michigan Tech just to put a goalie in there. But yeah, I mean, honestly, there are not a lot of goalies in the country this year that really stand out as number one Mike Richter Award possibility besides him. There just aren't. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really remember or think of a whole lot of like top tier NHL prospect goaltenders that are playing in college hockey this year. Maybe I'm missing one or two. Trey Augustine. I mean, he's a freshman, but
yeah,
I think he'll be really good. I'm excited to see him play. Kaden Bierko obviously is good. I don't think he's Hobie Baker Award level right now, but he's really good and fun to watch. I'd just to be quick here, Lane Hudson. I'll do Cutter Gauthier and oh man. I don't think Jimmy Snuggerud could have a good season. I'll just go with Jackson Blake too, honestly, just to be fun about it. What do you got? What do you think? What can you think about links here? What do you got?
I would say the same thing as you, Dave. Celebrini. Might as well.
I didn't say Celebrini. I should have said
you didn't
Celebrini.
say Celebrini? Yeah, I'm putting Celebrini in mine. Hudson, and then I mean, I think I'm a bit of a homer, so throw any of the UND Blake. If Gaber goes off, gets the goals, like you said, Brad.
It'd be sick if Gaber did it. I mean, I've never personally, I don't know about you, Brad. You covered a lot more than I have, but I don't know if I've ever seen a kid go to this school that the fans love so much than Reese Gaber. Like everybody loves him. The crowd cheers extra loud whenever they announce his name. I mean, you see it on Twitter, you see it on Facebook. I mean, his parents are really active on Facebook and everything, and they can jump around that behind that too. But I've never seen UND love one kid so much or just have him be so immersed into the program. You know, it's awesome to see. It'd be awesome to have him have that season after, I mean, after his freshman or sophomore year, we're like, if Gabriel's gonna win the whole, be like by his senior year. So hopefully it'd
Yeah.
be cool to see him do that. Um, we'll kind of jump away from college hockey real quick as we start to wrap things up here. Shane Pinto still yet to be signed. We've gotten through the whole summer and the season's nearing really close here. I'm not sure when the regular season starts up for sure. I know preseason already started, but so we're not seeing Pinto on that lineup. Brad, what do you know about the situation and how do you think it's being handled or what do you think will happen?
Well, it'll be interesting to see when Ottawa comes up with the money for him. They're in a salary cap crunch, and arguments can be made that they put themselves there this summer. And if had they prioritized signing Pinto, this could have been done a long time ago, and it's not done. So, there's certainly some questions you have for Ottawa about the way they've managed things. You may remember last year it took them a while to sign Clavin after the season ended, and I thought that should have been a fairly cut and dry signing. And so I don't know what they were negotiating, but that should have been done. Pinto should have been done by now. And as at the time of us recording this, Jacob Bernard-Docker's on waivers, and now you can potentially lose one of your previous first round picks for nothing. And that's something you at least want to trade and get a pick for. But now here all of a sudden they could lose him for nothing, and it just seems like there's a lot of asset mismanagement there right now.
Yeah, I remember seeing, just to throw some logistics in there, I believe they offered him 1 year, $1 million, which is a little shocking despite the season he had last year. I know he was disappointed about it, as he should be. I think what I saw him wanting was like 2.5 a year. I don't remember how long he wanted the deal to be, but that's what his agent was shooting for. So hopefully that gets wrapped up here soon. What a good thing to hear is that they are extremely adamant about keeping Pinto around in the Senza organization. They don't want to trade him. They don't want to get rid of him. They see him in the rebuild here, which is coming around the bend here. Hopefully they'll be a playoff team this season. Sanderson had a good year last year. You look for him to have an even better season. And then Clevin might even make the team out of this year, hopefully, especially if JBD gets cut or they move some defensemen around. But we'll do the last little thing here, being that the season opens October 7th this weekend on Saturday, puck drop at 6 p.m. against University of Manitoba. We're just going to go through here, all three of us. We'll start with Brad, though. What would you say your score prediction is for this exhibition matchup?
I haven't even looked at Manitoba yet. I have no idea how they're playing.
Might just be a shot in the dark.
They would be a complete shot in the dark. It seems like the game usually is like a 5-2 game. Manitoba has a new coach this year. Mike Serrant had been their head coach forever, and he retired. So it may be a different look to Manitoba this year, and I just have no idea what to expect. But it seems like 5-2-6-2 is like the standard lately. But I just don't know whether they're having a good season or not.
Lincoln, what about you, man? What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with Brad on that. Every year that I've gone to watch them, it's always generally been a blowout. Actually, I think 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year went to
it was
OT.
close to like 3-2 or something. I don't know.
Went to OT in like 2018 or 2019, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Depending on how I don't know what they're gonna do with the goalie situation. They'll start Pearson or obviously, and then I don't know.
It's Person, I think now, isn't it?
Yeah, Pearson.
Person.
Person. I mean,
Person.
they're going to call him Person this year.
Oh yeah.
His last name is actually like Persson, is how you say it
shoot.
in Swedish.
Oh man.
But he was like, just call me Person, I guess. So they're gonna go with Person, but it's actually like Persson is how you say it in Swedish.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
Lynx, what are you thinking here?
I mean, depending on how Person plays, I would, if he plays good and
I don't
if
think
they
he's
take
led
him
more
out,
than two. I don't think that's gonna
yeah,
happen.
I kind of hope he has a really good game and keeps it under two, maybe one. I'm gonna go 5-1. I'm feeling a good
Right.
performance. We'll see if they throw the backups in, and it'd be good to see Hedquist and Cheese get some time too.
Yeah, Brad, is there a chance that they start not Pearson or they switch guys out throughout periods or anything like that? What do you think?
I think I think more than one guy will play. That would be my
Be the
expectation.
smart thing to do, I feel like.
But I think Person starts
Right.
the game. But I do think we'll see multiple goalies. I think they're going to dress extra guys. You know, there'll probably be some line juggling and defensive pair juggling.
What do you, real quick, this is kind of just came on my mind. What do you look to see from Dane Montgomery this season as he comes back for the first time in a while?
I mean, he's looked good at practice and he had an assist tonight. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good start for Dane Montgomery. But that isn't all that out of the ordinary from what I've seen all fall. That he's actually come back and looked pretty good. So again, it'll be really interesting to watch him and Bennett Smolik, because you know, not often do you go into a season with a player who hasn't played a hockey game in a year and a half, and UND has two of them, not just one, but two guys who have not played a game in a really long time. We'll see how quickly they can get back into their game condition and get their timing and everything back. Practicing is one thing, games are another thing, and it's been a long time for those two.
Yeah, Dane looked good out there tonight. It was good to see him. Definitely for sure good to see him back out there after such a long hiatus from the ice. Well, that's pretty much going to do it this week for catching up with Brad and the boys. Thanks to everyone for listening. We're not sure exactly. I said this before. I'll reiterate here. We're not exactly sure how frequently we're going to do these episodes. We like to do it at least once a month, depending on how the season goes. I'm sure we'll maybe reconvene. Brad's a busy guy, so we're happy to be doing this at least once a month with him. So thanks again for that, Brad. But with that being said, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks for everyone for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.